Outlaw motorcycle gangs, more commonly known as bikies, they've been one of our largest groups responsible for organised crime in Australia, and they do have a very strong presence here in Queensland. Now, in recent years, bikies have become a prime target in our fight against organised crime and a key focus of the AFP Operation Ironside. Bond University criminologist and former police detective Dr. Terry Goldsworthy, he analysed bikie gangs and claims that Queensland's bikies are over-policed and account for less than 1% of overall crime. Now, according to Terry, the number of bikie members charged has halved over the past 5 years. 272 members received criminal charges over 2020-2021. That's down from 534 in 2016-17. Now, these charges account for 0.28% of overall reported crime in Queensland. Now, so that's not alarming numbers, but I guess the question is, have we really cracked down on bikies, or are they just becoming smarter? Dr. Terry Goldsworthy joins me on the line now. Terry, thanks for being back on 4BC Drive.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Well, I guess if you look at those numbers in terms of police to the level of crime at least being detected, are they being over-policed?
Well, I guess we should explain to your listeners what over-policing is. So over-policing is policing style premised on deterrence theory. So the idea is that if you throw a lot of police at a certain group in society, you'll stop them committing crime. The increased contact between police and those who are targeted by them will lead to a reduction in crime. So there's, I guess you could say, disproportionate attention to a real or perceived criminal behaviour of a suspect group. And in this case, it's, bikies, but it certainly has come up with other groups in society. The argument is now, are we over-policing bikies? Do they have a high level of criminal exposure because we're focusing on them so much, whereas if you went and focused on other groups in society, they may also have an increase in criminal behaviour. But I guess these figures, what they show us to some degree is it's interesting to know now how much crime do bikies commit, what type of crime do they commit, what are the levels of criminality within the gangs, because not every bikie is a criminal, and do different gangs engage in different types of criminal behaviour? And we're starting to get the answer to those questions, and one of them is how much crime do they commit? Well, we've had three sets of data now. So we've had Queensland data from 2008 to 14, which showed they committed 0.17% of crime. The latest data that was in the paper today showed an average of 0.35%, and ACT data over a 20-year period shows much the same, less than 1% of reported crime. So it's really starting to be quite stable, that they are responsible for a very small amount of crime. And when you look at that type of crime, overwhelmingly the top 10 charges are for minor level offences such as personal drug use, public nuisance, breach of bail, etc. So it's probably a different picture to what we see in the media.
All right, and so the police aren't detecting a lot of crime, and I guess that's the issue here. Could it be that the bikers just got smarter how to avoid detection?
Yeah, look, it could be. I mean, there's a couple of possible scenarios for those figures, and you'd need access to further police information that isn't available publicly. But one option is that they're offending less. Okay, so whatever's driving that, whether the police attention, etc., who knows? The second one could be they're being detected less in their offending. That could be a resourcing issue in terms of less police looking at them than there were, say, 5 years ago, where we had 500 of them arrested. Again, you won't know that unless the police tell you that, and they tend not to for operational reasons. The other issue is that, this just could be where their offending rate sits. And I think that's probably the most logical explanation, that we had probably a big splurge on bikie enforcement with in 2014 when we had the bikie blitz down here in Broadbeach, and we had literally 200 police and task force take back in Maxima doing nothing but bikies. So that would have artificially inflated it through that over-policing concept I was talking about. But what we're seeing now, I guess, is the task force take back is history. It's now been diluted into general duties policing down here, and Maxima is probably not the same size it was either. I'd be surprised if it is. And I think we're seeing some, waste of resources on consorting laws that have very little punitive outcome, when we should see them focusing on those bikies who are committing high-level organised crime.
Terry Goldsworthy, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, Scott.